World champions of baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, and the Philadelphia Eagles are still Super Bowl champions, and the Philadelphia Phillies are back in first place. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly, Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Phillies took 3 out of 4 from the Marlins. They followed that up with 2 out of 3 from the Mets. A good week. The NBA draft is tomorrow and Thursday. A lot of rumors out there all the way up to just 5 minutes ago regarding that number 3 pick. The NHL draft is this Friday and Saturday as well. The Flyers have 6 picks, 3 picks in the first round, pick 6, 22, and 31. They also made a trade this week. There's a lot of action going on there as well. We're going to get some nickname fun tonight, too. And, man, that was a lot of work, but it's going to be fun. Get ready with your list of 10 favorite Philly sports nicknames in the last 50 years. We have plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Well, heck, Chet is a nickname. You're known to some as the Chief, like Bobby Taylor was. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. And we will talk a lot about the Flyers and the Sixers draft plans, because both of those drafts are coming your way in the days ahead. And, of course, the first place Phillies. So we got a fun show.
Yes, we do. Plenty to talk about. We have a great guest tonight making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio in the voice of the Flyers, Jim Jackson.
Yeah, 100 degrees outside. So, of course, we're going to talk ice hockey. Cool everything down.
Well, you know, we had JJ on our 500 show, which is just about almost a year ago, when the big news broke that day about Mitchkov becoming a Flyer. And here we are getting ready for the draft, another trade.
And there he is.
JJ, welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Good to be here, guys. How are you guys?
Hey,
Good.
JJ. First thing, once again, as Bill said, thank you for being a big part of our trio of special Flyers-related guests just about 1 year ago. Look at that crew right there.
There we are.
I mean, anytime you get to hang with the likes of Lou Nolan and Joe Watson and you, it's a good time, all right?
It is. 2 legends and a schmuck.
Well, Jim, let's talk a little bit about the Flyers 24-25 season first. I mean, other than the arrival and performance of a certain Russian rookie, it was generally a disappointing season. Why wasn't the club able to make any big progress in year 2 of the Briere-Jonesy rebuild?
Well, I mean, I'm one to yell at people when they oversimplify the game sometimes, but I'm going to oversimplify it. They didn't get enough stops. I mean, their team save percentage was .872. That is near record low. You can't win with that. And in fact, I think that the bottom 8 teams in save percentage all missed the playoffs. You have to get some saves. Sam Harrison had moments where he was a solid goalie, still a little inconsistent, and he, had injury issues. And Ivan Fedotov also had some good moments, but some real questionable games. Kolosov really didn't get the job done. So, it was tough. It's tough to win without goaltending. And the power play continued to struggle as well. Those are the 2 biggest things. The good news is there was still a lot of development from some of the core people. Michkov obviously was as advertised. Tyson Forster took another step. Bobby Brink absolutely improved. He took another step. Jamie Drysdale had a really good second half to the season. So there were really good signs underneath the record. Last year was really not about the record that much. Danny Briere had pretty much come out right at the beginning of the season and said, we could take a step back this year. And they did. So record-wise, but not in terms of the key young foundational pieces taking a step forward. I mean, there were guys like Owen Tippett who didn't have quite the year that they were hoping in terms of production. They're going to hope for a bounce back from him, or at least more of a progression upward instead of kind of plateauing. But a lot of the young guys played well. And also the veterans, Sanheim, Konechny, and Couturier all had pretty solid seasons, and Couturier showed he can still be a very solid player. Konechny showed he could be an all-star, and Sanheim was at times very much a number one defenseman, not for the whole season perhaps, but for bits and pieces of it. They were both Konechny and Sanheim recognized as they went to the Four Nations tournament and played for Canada, went again for the Worlds and played very well over there. I wouldn't be shocked if those guys get Olympic invites either. So these are good players, and you can build around these players. They're still in their 20s. They're getting to the late 20s, but they're still in the 20s. Couturier obviously is a veteran, but he's got a long-term contract. He's the captain. He's not going anywhere. So you build around these veterans. They said goodbye to some veterans. Scott Lawton most prominently, and then, of course, younger veterans like Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost. That's part of the rebuild. You have to figure out the pieces you're going to move forward with, keep them, hope for development from them, move some of the ones that you don't see as part of the future anymore, and that's what they did. And Danny Briere got a lot of assets in those deals, especially the Lawton one, where he got a first-round pick and a prospect. And so as we sit here right now, guys, the Flyers, 5 straight years out of the playoffs. I know fans are constantly bringing that up to me, but they are accumulating assets at a really good pace. They have the 3rd youngest team in the NHL at the season's end. They have a lot of good young players on the team like Forster and Michkov, and I can go on with some of the guys we've already mentioned, Brink and Drysdale and all these guys. They also have a lot of good young players on the way that they've already drafted, like Oliver Bonk and Alex Bump and Denver Barkey. And obviously Jet Lachenko. So there's obviously talent on the way. And then 6, even after the trade, now I must throw in Trevor Zegras is one of the young players that they're expecting things from. He's only 24. And then you throw in 6 picks in the first 2 rounds on Friday and Saturday in the draft. That's a lot of assets. That's a lot of young talent. Things are going to get better. They do have to make sure they have the goaltending position shored up, whether they feel the same guys can do it and just get better, or whether they have to go out and get a goalie. I think that's important. They have to get the power play going better. They have obviously a new coach and new power play coach as well. And also a guy like Zegras, who can certainly help. Michkov should be a tremendous power play performer, should have been better than he was last year. I think more should have been put in his lap on the power play, actually, and will be this year. So I see the power play improving. Of course, I've said that the last 2 or 3 years, and it didn't. So, boy who cried wolf, I guess, a little bit there. But I do see with the big changes now that have occurred in terms of the coaching and adding a Zegras and maybe a year of maturation for Michkov, that power play really improving. And I'm not saying it's going to go to the top of the league, but even to 20th would help from 30th, which is where they finished, and 32nd the 3 years prior to that. So a little improvement there, better goaltending. This team absolutely can be a playoff team next year.
Well, we're talking rebuild. What do you see the impact of Rick Tocchet in John Tortorella out? Tortorella, I just don't know what to think about how this whole tenure lasted with Tortorella. Good, probably a Hall of Fame coach, but it just didn't seem like it was getting better.
Well, he did really instill what the Flyers and Danny Briere and Keith Jones and Dan Hilferty wanted. He did instill he called it a standard. I'll call it a culture, whatever you want to call it. He instilled that. There's not one team in the NHL that liked playing the Flyers. They were hard to play against, undermanned some nights, but never gave up in a game. They had 9 third-period comebacks right near the top of the league last year. They battled hard, led the league in blocked shots. They were willing to sacrifice. So he did instill that culture. There's no question that the Flyers are now considered a hard team to play against now. So it wasn't as though his tenure was a complete waste. I do think it was probably good for Matvei Michkov to have a tough love coach as his first coach. Matvei is tremendously talented, but he has a lot to learn in terms of playing winning hockey when you play the full 200 feet and so forth. And I think Torts did help him in that regard. Tock's going to be more communicative perhaps than Torts. That's what Tock's MO is, communication, but Tock's not exactly a love bug. He's also going to be tough when he has to be. So, Michkov's going to have to get better. He has to be in better shape so that, the second half of his shifts are still strong. He's still better, as good as he is in the first half of back-to-back games as he is in the second half. or vice versa, as good in the second half as he is in the first half. And, so he's got things to work on himself for sure. But Talk will, I think, be for him welcome because he just communicates a little bit more than Torts. But it's still not going to be easy. Talk does not come in here. While people say he's a player's coach, that's because he communicates well. He's also tough when he doesn't think you're giving him all you can give. So I think that's a good kind of segue, if you will, from Torts to Talk for Michkov. And I do think that it was good for Michkov to see that tough love early on. I think it probably cost him Calder Trophy votes because he got scratched twice and got benched within games 2 or 3 times. And when the national media sees that, they just assume Michkov's not playing well, when in reality, Torts does that to almost every player in the team at one point or another during the course of a season. I do think it might have cost him Calder Trophy votes. He didn't even finish in the top 3. I don't think he would have won. I think Lane Hudson would have won anyhow, but I think if Michkov had more leeway, he probably would have been in the top 3 and gotten at least nominated for that. But he may not have learned as much as he did through the tough love of John Tortorella. So I think in the long run, that was good for Michkov. I think in the long run, Torts did install that in this Flyers group and in the Flyers room. And now it's time to move on to another coach who's still tough, but maybe a little bit less tough around the edges. And I think that will help some of the players who didn't necessarily deal well with Torts. It might hurt some players who need that kick in the butt. But as I said, Talk will kick you in the butt too. So we'll see.
JJ, I want to get back to that trade that was made a day or two ago. The trade with Anaheim. The Flyers gave up Ryan Poehling and a couple of draft picks for that 24-year-old forward, Trevor Zegras. He's played mostly left wing from what I understand, but he's a natural center. So how does he fit in with the Flyers?
Yeah, he played wing lately. Early in his career, when he was putting up 2 60-point seasons and 23-goal seasons, he was playing center.
Okay.
I think he wants to play center. I think the Flyers, due to lacking depth in the pivot, want him to play center. That doesn't mean he'll end up there. He's going to, I think, get an opportunity, though, through training camp and through exhibition games, perhaps, and maybe even the early season to play center. I see the lines you've put up there. I'm not quite sure I agree with them, but it is. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they mix and match everybody. But if Zegras is in the middle, you can see him as the second line center. That Cates Forster Brink line was actually one of the top lines in the NHL in terms of expected goals last year. If you're into analytics, they were at the top. They had a better chance to score than any other line in the NHL in terms of scoring chances for, scoring chances against. So they're listed as a third line. They might actually be the number 1 line. Sean Couturier, Michkov, and Konechny really showed some things late in the year. So I see why you went with this line chart here, because you kind of just threw the other forwards that weren't in those 2 lines together. We shall see. There's still other players to be acquired. There's also Jet Luchenko, who could be part of that mix. There's other players, but Zegras as a center is definitely what they have in mind. I think it's what he likes. But as a center, you have defensive responsibilities that the other forwards, the wingers, don't necessarily have. And Zegras is going to have to show that he can handle those responsibilities to keep that pivot spot. He too went through an experience with a tough love coach in Cronin out in Anaheim. They didn't always see eye to eye. But I think that it was good for his overall game, too. He was much better this past season with Zegras in terms of his overall 200-foot play. So if he takes some of that, but also gets back to being that prolific, skilled offensive player, this could be a home run of a trade. If it isn't a home run, it was still worth the swing. They gave up a solid player, but a complimentary player in the fourth-line center in Ryan Poehling, a second-round pick when they have 3 others in that year. That's this year, so that's not really that much of a loss. And then a 4th-round pick in 2026. 4th-round picks are not that big a deal. So they didn't give up. A lot of people thought they'd have to give up a Brink or, some people threw out their Forster. I don't think that was ever a possibility. A higher-end current player plus a first to get Zegras. Wow. They give up a 4th-line player and a 2nd and a 4th to get him. So to me, absolutely worth the swing. If you remember the Capitals last year, they picked up a whole bunch of players: Jacob Chychrun, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mangiapane from Colorado, from Calgary, several others that were guys that have had good seasons but weren't coming off great seasons. and, what was wrong, and there's something wrong with them. Most of these guys were also high draft picks, so they came with a real good pedigree, but just hadn't been doing it lately in their careers wherever they were. And you saw how it came together. They won the division. They were tremendous. Pierre-Luc Dubois had a great season. Chikrit had a great season. Most of those guys that they took a swing on had great seasons, and they did it with Dylan Strome the year before that, 2 years before that. So they have been able to retool around Alexander Ovechkin without rebuilding to the point of winning their division this year by doing that. So I think the Flyers will have to do that as part of their rebuild, and this Zegras trade is absolutely an example of that. They take a swing at a player who's shown glimpses, comes from a high pedigree. He's a high pick, 9th overall pick. Hadn't been playing as well lately. Injuries part of that as well. But why not give a guy like that a chance? I mean, you don't have to give up anybody from your top 6 or even top 9 or a first-round pick, and you get a player like that. I think it's a home run right now. Now, it's not going to be considered a home run if Zegras doesn't pan out. If he doesn't pan out, to me, it might be a swing and a foul ball or a swing and a pop-up. But to me, you got to take those swings or you're never going to get a chance to go around the base paths. So Danny Briere took the swing. We'll see how it all turns out.
JJ, you mentioned the goaltender stats and all that. What about the play on the blue line? Were the defenders good enough? The goalie gets the blame, obviously. Was the defense good enough?
I like their defense. The pair of York and Sanheim, when they were together, was also rated up near the top of the NHL in expected goals for and goals against. That pair was broken up at some point by the Flyers, whether it was Bradshaw's decision or John Tortorella's decision, I'm not sure. But and then you saw development from Drysdale. Nick Seeler's become a really solid bottom 4 defender. He was in the second pair at the end of the year. That might be above where he's supposed to be. He should be maybe in the third pair, but he's very good at that level. Rasmus Ristolainen got injured. That was big. Now, I say that, he gets injured a lot in his career. So, at some point the constant becomes him being injured and not him playing. But when he was playing, he's become a force and a kind of guy every team has to have on that blue line, a guy who finishes plays off with his physicality, doesn't hurt you offensively, moves the puck well. So there are pieces as part of this defense core for sure that are there. And they've got a lot of pieces coming. Oliver Bonk's on the way. I don't think he'll play in the NHL this year, but he's a guy that's going to probably be a top 4 defenseman at some point along the line. They have some other guys, too, that are further down the line. They may need a little help on D. They're rumored to be after Bowen Byram from the Sabres, but and do they have that stud Cale Makar number 1 guy? No. If you believe you have to have that stud number 1 guy, they don't have that right now. Sanheim played like that at times. There were some out there that thought maybe Cam York could graduate to that at some point. I don't know. I think those guys are top 4 defenders, maybe top 2. I'm not sure if either of them are your number 1 guy that can play the power play and also be the guy you have out there protecting a 1-goal lead. So they may need to try to find that somewhere, and that's going to be hard to do if you don't draft one because they just don't grow on trees. They're hard to find, and once they're found, they're not going anywhere. Teams aren't going to give them up. So we'll see on that. But overall, it's a solid defense core. They're going to try to get a little deeper, hope that Ristolainen stays healthy. Hunter McDonald's coming. He's getting seasoned in the minor leagues. He's another Ristolainen type of player. Andre has shown some good things. Now, with Andre and Drysdale and York, you have 3 guys that aren't big defensemen. So the Flyers, Brad Shaw, I think, came out and said last year, you probably can't have all 3 of those guys as part of your top 6 because you're probably playing an undersized defenseman on every pair. So we have to see how it all shakes out. But there are certainly pieces there among that blue line core that make it solid, more on the way, and perhaps after Friday and Saturday with those 6 picks in the first 2 rounds, some more pieces on the way. Maybe they have to go out and find one. Quinn Hughes' contract, I think, out in Vancouver is starting to run out a little bit or something. So you never know. You can go out and get somebody. The Flyers, the other thing we haven't talked about here that Danny has done a good job of is he's shaving cap space, or he's actually increasing and creating cap space by shaving payroll. And they have a decent amount for this summer, but next year when the cap goes up again and the Flyers lose some other things off of theirs, they're going to have even more room under the cap to maybe go out and get some top line players via free agency.
Well, JJ, you mentioned the NHL draft. It happens this Friday and Saturday. As Bill noted, the Flyers have 6 picks over the first 2 rounds, including the 6th overall. Will they simply take the best player available at that spot, or will it be a specific need that they're going to look to fill?
I'd love to sit here and tell you guys, here's what I'm hearing. But as you all know, since the new regime took over, Jones, Briere, Dan Hilford, he's been here longer than them. But since those two took over, it's been really tough to get any information. And people laugh at me when they say, you worked with him for 17 years in the booth. I get nothing from Keith Jones. So I have no idea what they're going to do. Nobody saw the Zegras trade coming. No one saw the Gauthier trade coming. No one saw the Ivan Provorov trade coming back a couple of years ago. Yeah. No one saw the Farabee Frost trade coming. They have been really good at keeping these things under wraps. Scott Lawton was one that kind of snuck out there, but many of them have been under wraps until they've happened. So as far as what they're going to do with this pick, I do get the feeling that both Danny and Jonesy are pretty happy with the top 6 in this draft. So if they just sit tight, they're going to get one of those 6, because I do the math. They're picking 6. They're going to get one of those 6. If somebody maybe leaps and goes out of the box a little bit in the first 5 picks, they might have their choice of 2 of those top 6 on their board. I do think they want to add to their center pool. I know even with the Zegras acquisition, they still feel the center depth is not great in the organization. And there are some great centers. There's a lot of them at the top of this draft, and not enough of them to reach the 22nd pick when they get their second first-round pick. So I would think they go center, but if Porter Martone is there and the other 4 top centers are gone by 6, Martone is considered the top winger by a long shot in this draft and probably gets higher grades than some of the centers. So do they pick Martone if he's clearly the best prospect, even if he's a right wing, which is not a position they need at all? I don't know. That's a tough call. Now, what happens? There's been talk lately of San Jose going for Anton Frondel instead of Michael Misa. Misa, to me, is a potential number 1 stud. Now, I have seen Michael Misa play 0 times in person, and I've seen clips of him, and I've seen a couple of parts of his games when he went on NHL Network, or you find him on the internet. Like all those draftniks out there who have the entire round mocked, right? They have their mock drafts and everything. I'm going to tell you right up, most of them have seen just about as much as I've seen. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, they got to get. But I do. I mean, Misa, you look at what he did this past year. I mean, his numbers are up there with some of the best of all time. And from his younger days, he had the exceptional status in the OHL. So to me, I think this is a guy who could be not just a top 6 center, a number 1 center, which is one of their needs. So let's say San Jose surprises everybody. Elliot Friedman and some others have been tweeting the last couple of days that Frondel is suddenly possibly at number 2. And Chicago has already put it out there that they are willing to move 3, the number 3 pick. So does Danny at that point, with all this draft capital he has and maybe some young players that he's willing to move, does he step in there and move from 6 to 3 to get Michael Misa if he gets to 3? I don't know. I don't know if they're in love with Misa as I am. With Jet Luchenko as a good example last year, they have their scouts. They go with what their scouts say. Jet Luchenko is not expected to be picked as high as he was by the Flyers last year. After seeing Jet Luchenko in development camp and through camp last year and what I saw him this year in the juniors and AHL, they had a home run with Jet Luchenko. He's going to be an outstanding player. So you think back to last year, nobody had us picking the Flyers picking Jet Luchenko, and when they picked him, a lot of the draft nicks, because their mocks were screwed up, they were imploded by that pick. We're like, oh, this is a reach. This is a reach. The scouts for the Flyers, they go see these guys play months at a time. They talk to these players. They talk to the coaches. They talk to their teammates. They know these guys inside and out. A lot of these mock drafters do not. They see some clips on the internet. They might see the odd game, and they make their justification on that. And, hey, it's fun. I get why they do it. I get why they put it out on YouTube. And and Instagram and all the social media. It's great. It gets clicks. It's fun. I watch the mock drafts myself, but I'm telling you, those mock drafts are from people for the most part who have not watched a tenth as much of these prospects as the Flyers scouts. So I trust the scouts is what I'm trying to say, more than I trust these people who put these mock drafts together. So it could be Jake O'Brien. It could be, who knows? There's so many wild card guys. Roger McQueen, the big center, who people say is a big reach because he's missed a lot of time with back injuries. That's certainly a red flag. But if he's healthy, could be a top 5 pick. They could go for him. If Danny has shown you anything in his 2+ years, he's willing to take swings. They took a swing with Michkov. At the time, Michkov wasn't expected to come over for 3 years. A lot of teams stayed away from him. I think that worked out pretty well. And they took a swing. They just took a swing yesterday with Zegras. So they're willing to take swings on guys like that. I think they're willing to take a swing on one of these guys who might not be seen in any of these mock drafts in the top 6, but he's in their top 6. And that's what's more important to them. So to answer your question, after a long-winded diatribe there, I have no idea what they're going to do. And I will never, because they're so tight to the vest. I could text Jonesy as soon as I get done with you guys and say, hey, I said this about the draft. Am I even close? And you go, just tell him we're looking at all options.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not, I don't have any inside information, so I really don't know where they go. If you're asking me what I would do, if they had a chance to get Michael Misa, I'm willing to trade one of their other firsts and possibly one of a player from the team right now that's not maybe, not Travis Konechny or somebody like that, but somebody on the team now that might not be considered a huge part going forward. And obviously the 6th pick would go. So you'd be trading the 6th, let's say the 31st, which is their last first round pick this year, maybe a player from the current team, and maybe a second round pick as well. That's to move up 3 spots. You're saying you're crazy, but I think the difference between Misa and some of these other players might be that large. Again, I say that not having scouted him. I'm saying that from seeing as much of him as some of these draft nicks have seen of him. So it really means nothing. The Flyers scouts may have gone out and talked to Misa. Maybe they don't feel good about his character. Everything I've heard is he's a tremendous kid. So I doubt that's the case, but they've had more contact with these guys. So I don't really know how they're thinking about it. Back in the day, they kind of let you know, but not with this regime. You're not going to get any information out of them. So I don't know what they're thinking. I think you want to tune in, though, Friday. It's going to be intriguing. When you have 3 firsts and 3 seconds and you're in the build phase of a rebuild now, you really better pay attention. Yeah, Flyers draft party. We're all going to be down there.
Down at AC.
Yeah, and we're going to have fun with the fans. I can't wait to see the response as we all sit there and find out together. And we're going to have Jonesy and Danny, if possible, and Talk all come out and talk to the fans. So it should be a lot of fun.
Hey, JJ, one final question for me on the way out because we're going to run out of time. Assuming the legal battles get taken care of this summer like they're supposed to, is Carter Hart a possibility, or is that Flyers ship sailed?
That's another really good question. If they're acquitted, one would say in just the most black and white terms that they should be eligible to come back and play, right? But it's not that easy. A lot of stuff has come out in the trial. And so you have the court, and in this case, it's going to be a judge making the decision since 2 juries have been excused. But so you have the court is going to render a decision, but then you have the court of public opinion. Mm-hmm. And, a lot has come out about that case. So it's really going to be up to the Flyers to determine whether what's come out has tarnished these guys, not just Carter, but all the rest of them, their image to the point where you don't want to have them on your team. I will say this about Carter Hart. In my years with the Flyers, and that's now, guys, well over 3 decades,
yep,
he's one of the nicest guys I've ever had to deal with. I mean, when I brought people in I brought an ALS patient in once to the locker room, for instance, and he wanted to see Wayne Simmons, and Simmer was great with him, of course, but But Carter, I didn't even talk to Carter. He came over, and this was an ALS patient who was so far along that he can only talk using his eyes and printing it out on a screen. So it took a long time to talk with him. Carter came over and he chatted with him for like 20 to 25 minutes right after practice. He's still in his gear and never was asked to do it. He just did it on his own. And the guy was thrilled. And that's just, you saw what he did with his jersey number for the kid out in Everett. I mean, he made mistakes. There's no doubt mistakes were made in this whole situation. And it's up to somebody else to judge these people on that, not me. But what I know of Carter Hart, and I treat people the way they treat me, I would welcome him back. But it's easy for me to say that. I don't know how people will respond because that was not a great situation up there. And a lot of it's come out, and a lot of it is stuff that should have been avoided. There's no question. So we'll see. To answer your question again, I should have just put a recording on. I don't know because I have no idea on that one either. And I don't think you'll get any answer on that question while the case is still technically not decided, which it won't be until later next month. So then once that happens, maybe we'll start to see if teams are willing to give these players another chance. It would be a nice way if you do feel as though Carter is deserving of that from a purely hockey standpoint, blocking everything else out, which we can't do, of course. But from a purely hockey standpoint, it would be a great thing to have a number one goalie come back to your fold. But it's just so much more complicated than the hockey aspect. So we shall see where that goes. There's other goalies that might be available. I mean, John Gibson's name is always out there in Anaheim. Thatcher Demko's name has been thrown out there. I believe Jake Allen's name, some others. There are not many free agents out there, but there are guys who you might be able to acquire via trade. But it's possible that the Brain Trust is also thinking, we've got our guys, we're just going to make them better and hope that they stay healthy. I'm one that you had a full season of that. That's not a small sample size, a full season. So I would be surprised if they come back with the same setup, 3 goalie setup. First of all, I don't think that is great to begin with, but they come back with Kolosov, Fedotov, and Ersson. I'd be surprised, but I don't put it out of the realm of possibility either. But at this point, I would think there will be some kind of change in the goaltending group. But again, we shall see.
JJ, we kept you way longer than we expected, but hey,
it's all right.
Fun.
It's always great talking Flyers hockey and when it's 102 out.
Exactly. There you go.
Have fun Friday night.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. That's for sure.
I appreciate you guys. Congratulations on, when was the anniversary?
It was 1 year ago, like June 24th or whatever.
I know it was 1 year ago, but what was the date? So June 20th.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
there you go.
We're up to 554 shows now. So
wow. So I was on the 500th and the 554th.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
All right,
Onward,
JJ.
Onward, guys. Onward.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
All right. I'll talk to you when you hit 1,000.
All right. Let's go Flyers.
Hopefully before then.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Don't forget that draft party. I don't know if it's sold out or not. So I might be promoting something that you can't go to anymore, but we're going to have a lot of fun down there. It's Coatsy, it's Timmy Saunders, Fridge, Jason Marti. You got a whole bunch of people down there. We're going to have a lot of fun. So and it's going to be a big, big night in Flyers history. It's 3 first-round picks. Doesn't happen very often.
Thanks, Jim.
And it might not happen. They may trade.
Yeah, exactly. See ya.
All right, JJ. All right, Chet. Philly Pressbox Radio is part of the STT Sports Network, as in Set the Trends. It's a network set up by our pal Phil Stiefel, host of the terrific Trendy in the AM show that you can find every weekday morning on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. Check out Phil and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Phil's show is on there, and so is ours. Yep, you can find Philly Pressbox Radio there in addition to on our own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. Again, it's the STT Sports Network, setting the trends for what sports talk should be. Hey, Chet, summertime. Time for probably a cold beverage. What's going on at the Irish Rover Station House?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Bill. The Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA is one of my favorite places to visit for a beer or two and some great food. The Rover always has killer burger Thursdays, dinner specials Thursday through Sunday, happy hour deals Monday through Friday. I took advantage of that a couple of weeks ago for wings and a beer. Oh, plus a $5 Sunday Fun Day menu and always 24 beers on tap. This Friday, the Rover has a special Stella night. Stella! You can even get a cool Stella chalice and have it engraved. If you have yet to visit, check this place out, please. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, and you can find them on the web at irishroverstationhouse.com.
Hey, I'm John Brazier, Director of Fun and Games for the Fightin' Phils. Speaking of fun, you're hanging with Bill and Chet on Philly Pressbox Radio. Go Phils.
Go Phils. Hey, Chet, as mentioned, the NBA draft starts tomorrow night. Rumors out there about the Sixers moving up from number 3 to number 2, or who they're going to pick at 3. What are you thinking and hearing? I've heard something about this Ace Bailey guy that's turned off the Sixers and a whole bunch of others as he's decided he ain't talking to anybody. What a knucklehead.
First of all, happy birthday to John Brazier. I played the John Brazier video because today's his birthday. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday, John.
The director of Fun and Games for your Phillies. All right, regarding the Sixers, Bill, I think every possible option is on the table. A move up to number 2 would make sense because a lot of experts out there think that Dylan Harper, who is widely considered the second best player overall, is a better fit for the Sixers than he is for the Spurs, who hold that second pick overall. So there's that. But what would it take to make that happen? I don't know. Now, regarding Ace Bailey, yeah, he didn't want to come visit the Sixers or anybody else, I think. So I don't know if I like that approach. I don't know if I like that, him doing that. So that kind of turned me off a little bit. I think I'd more prefer VJ Edgecombe anyway. Of course, they could trade down a few spots. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do. I don't follow the college game close enough to know who's the best fit, but from what I'm hearing and reading, I do think VJ Edgecombe is a very good possibility if they stay at number 3. We may say Ace Bailey dropped to 6 or 7, by the way, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot about Edgecombe as well, and I'm thinking he might be the guy if they sit tight.
Yeah.
Hey, right before the show, there was Adam Schefter reported. I'm going to read this to you because I don't think you saw it. I did a screenshot of it. Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn are finalizing a three-team trade that sends Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Hawks, Terrence Mann and Atlanta's number 22 pick to the Nets, and George Niang and a second-round pick to the Celtics.
Interesting. Yeah, the Celtics are making some moves. They're also parting ways with Drew Holiday, the former Sixer.
Yep.
So a lot of people think the NBA East could be wide open next year with Tatum getting hurt, Tyrese Halliburton now getting hurt in the final game, unfortunately, the Pacers losing to OKC, and Damian Lillard from the Bucks also hurt and probably going to miss, most of next year, all with debilitating injuries. So, I'm not saying the Sixers have a chance. Believe me, we still know that it would take a miracle for Embiid and Paul George to both be relatively healthy for an entire season, and for Daryl Morey and company to get it right Wednesday night come draft time. I just don't have the faith in this organization, Bill.
They have to get it right. They have to, right?
Yeah, they have to. I mean, it's pretty much do or die for this group because I mean, Embiid is 31 now. He ain't getting younger. He ain't getting healthier. And Paul George, I don't think really wants to play anymore. I feel bad for Tyrese Maxey, who's got to, be in this situation. But Bill, let me tell you this. Just the other day, the NBA title odds for next year came out. I know it's tough to see, but the 76ers are actually in the top half somehow. They are tied for 14th to win the title with the LA Clippers at 33-1. So, Bill, I suggest you put $100 on the Sixers to win the title next year and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, or if you had $10 billion and $1, you could buy the Lakers.
Yeah, how about that?
$10 billion. Holy cow.
Well, they made a nice profit on that. The Buss family, did they not?
You think? You think? Oh, shoot. Hey, Chet, let's move on because I'm thinking there can't be a better way than a summer of Phillies baseball and tailgating with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia, Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Yeah, Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up a terrific catering business for some 35 years. You know them for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events, parties, you name it. And Cavs hosts tailgates before all Eagles games outside the link, and there will be various tailgates outside Citizens Bank Park in the coming months as well. There is one before a Phillies Angels game, one before a Phillies Red Sox game, both of those in July, and ahead of an Orioles Phillies game on August 6th at the ballpark. Of course, Cav will also host a tailgate outside the link on September 4th before the Eagles and Cowboys open the season. Get details on all upcoming events at Cavs website, phillytailgates.com. And if you have questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. By the way, Bill, that regular season opener I mentioned, Thursday, September 4th, is exactly 10 weeks and 2 days away. Tuesday. That is 72 days, and that means I'm going to show a picture of this guy, Trey Thomas, that great offensive tackle, spent 11 years with the Birds, 1998 through 2008. He made the Pro Bowl 3 times. He was a real good one. Again, 72 days till the Eagles beat the Cowboys to open the 2025 season.
There you go. Sounds good. Let's do it. Hey, Chet, speaking of doing it, the Phillies keep getting quality starting pitching. They won 5 of 7 against the Marlins and the Mets. They open up tonight at the Astros. Then they play the Braves this week. Bats are heating up a little bit. Marsh, Schwarber, JT's raising his average. Stott's looking a little better. Otto Kemp seems to have found a spot. It looks like they're setting him up for a Harper return, that Kemp's going to be a left fielder. I think that's looking more and more like that every day. Looks like they're going to keep him in the lineup.
Yeah, it looks that way, but Harper is in Houston. I don't think he's going to be activated immediately, but right. The fact that he's on the trip is a good sign that he is getting closer and closer to coming back. Yeah, we like what we've seen from Kemp. I don't know how ready he is to play left field. He played like 6 games in the minors, and they threw him out there over the weekend.
6 more than he played at first base.
Yeah, how about that?
Threw him out there too.
Yeah, he's played 3 positions in his 3 weeks with the Phillies already.
Right.
Doing a good job. It looks like he can hit. Hasn't hit for power just yet, but he's a keeper. They got rid of Weston Wilson, I guess. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Phillies going forward with Harper coming back. Nola, we know now, won't be back for a while, probably till after the All-Star break. He's on the 60-day IL. Before we talk more Phillies, though, Bill, I want to mention that as we've plugged, we're going to be talking great Philly sports nicknames a little bit later in this half hour. So, folks, if you're watching us live here on Tuesday night, give us your, say, 3 or 4 favorite all-time Philly sports nicknames, because we have each over 50 of them, Bill. So it was tough to break it down to a top 10 or top 20.
It was really hard. It was really, really hard. The ones I thought I knew, some of them fell out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. A lot of great nicknames. We go back to, the 60s with Wilt the Stilton, the Big Dipper, and the Kangaroo Kid, and all through the 70s and 80s. So, lots to choose from. Hey, the Phillies, though.
Before we get off the Phillies, we got to talk about that bullpen because it's still a problem.
How big a series, though, is this against Houston? A real good team from the AL. The Phillies have done pretty good against American League teams in interleague competition. Mm-hmm. So, just like the Phillies taking 2 of 3 from the Mets, is it important they can, go to Houston and take 2 out of 3 there?
Well, I think so, because the Mets are playing the Braves again. Braves beat them again last night. The only secretive thing here, Chet, the Braves keep winning. They're going to get hot. They might not just go away. They were 13 down at one point, and they're starting to win some games. So got to keep one eye out for those Braves. But Phillies just need to win a series. Just keep going out, winning 2 out of 3.
Well, we will root for the Braves when they're playing the Mets. That's for sure.
Always.
Regarding the bullpen, as you mentioned, they've done okay. I saw or heard, I guess, on the radio statistic, the Phillies are something like 40-2 this year when not that good, but it's close when they lead after the 7th inning and again after the 8th inning. They've really not blown that many saves where they actually lost the game. There've been some blown saves, there've been some implosions, but by and large, they're hanging in there. Yeah, the Alvarado suspension really hurt. The fact that they need another left-hander, we can all see that, but it hasn't been as bad as we thought it might. So
yeah, I mean, well, I don't know where you got that statistic from, but I watch the games and it's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
And that includes Matt Strom, who seems like he's given up a run pretty much every time he's out there.
Yeah.
And, Banks, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not that good.
He's a middle guy, though. He's not going to be,
yeah,
he's not going to be a late inning guy in any way. And I think where they really get in trouble is the games where they can't get 4 or 5 innings out of the starter.
Yep.
Then they need 4 or so innings out of the bullpen. That's a problem.
Yes,
and
it is.
Depending whose night it is, they don't have 3 or 4 guys to throw back-to-back nights. They just don't have that talent.
Well, the good news is they seem to be getting a great effort from their starters, who most nights will give you at least 5, and on many other occasions 6 or into the 7th inning. So
Right.
We can't complain about the starting rotation at all.
Yeah, well, and we could let them pitch the 9th inning, but for some reason we don't feel that we're capable of doing that because
hey, 98, 100 pitchers.
Name Rob Thompson out there. That's all I can say. Let's move on from that, Chet, because it's time that we've all been waiting for. We're going to announce our best Philly sports nicknames in the last 50 or so years or our lifetime. It don't matter. We make the rules. I stretched it out just a little bit. So many. Chet, I tell you what, I sat down, and I've been thinking about this all week. I finally sat down and put it on paper, and I was at 56. And I was actually telling my son about it, one of my boys about it, and he quick threw out 2 that I never even gave a thought about. So now I'm up to like 58 because they need to be on the list too.
Well, I'm in the same boat. I didn't count them precisely, but I know it is over 50, my total. So you want to go first, or should I with our honorable mentions?
Well, I'm going to tell you I'll start out first with some of the guys that didn't make my list. And what I tried to do just to keep order in my head is I did it by team. It turned out that that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
So the bodyguard, Jason Peters, didn't make it. Shady McCoy didn't make it. Jaws didn't make it. The Green Goblin, a great nickname, Jalen Mills, didn't make it.
Yeah.
The Slaymaker didn't make it. And Fred X didn't make it.
He's in my list.
Well, he didn't make my final 20 that I ended up with.
He made my final 10. I love the name Fred X. I don't know
Fred
why, because he thought he delivered those
That's
great
right.
hands.
That's right. Oh, there's so many great ones, Wally Jones didn't make it.
Ah, yes.
World Be Free didn't make it.
Nah, I didn't put that one.
Chet the Jet. Nope.
How did
Billy
I leave
Cunningham?
Chet the Jet? How did I leave Chet the Jet off my list?
Right?
Shame on me.
Billy Cunningham, the Kangaroo Kid. Dr. J didn't make it. The Boston Strangler didn't make it.
Dr. J didn't make it. What are you, crazy?
Well, everybody has Dr. J. I mean, that's too easy. Boston Strangler didn't make it. The Process didn't make it. Jelly Bean didn't make it.
I forgot that one. Yep.
The Hound, the Big Bird, and Moose didn't make it. The Big E. Reggie the Rifle. The Rat, Ken Linsman didn't make it.
I'm going to mention him.
Then we got Tugger, Dutch, Super Steve / Lefty, Bull, Doc Holliday, Chooch, Pat the Bat, Bedrock, Steve Bedrosian, Ryan Mad Dog Matson, Sarge, Charlie Hustle, Skate Smith, Jimmy Rollins, Smokin' Joe Frazier, and the Showman, Bryce Harper, did not make the cut.
The Showman, yeah, that's not really a good one. All right. I'm going to repeat some of the ones you gave, but I'm going to tell you, Bill, I gave this Philly Sport Nicknames assignment a lot of thought because there are just so many to choose from. The ones that I will mention, Bill, these are not in my top 10, this first group. Among the 40 or so honorable mention nicknames that are associated with Philly athletes, there are a couple of boxers, as you mentioned, Smokin' Joe Frazier. And how about the executioner, Bernard Hopkins? Phillies nicknames, the memorable ones for me included Crash, Dick Allen, The Bull, Sarge, Lefty, Charlie Hustle, Wild Thing, Nails, Chooch, J-Roll, the Flying Hawaiian, and the Big Piece. More recently, how about the guys collectively known as Daycare? Among Eagles, well, Concrete Charlie was before your time and my time, so we're not even going to talk about Chuck Bednarik, but how about Gangrene for that great Eagles defense in the early 90s? The Axeman, the Ultimate Weapon, Randall, Weapon X, Brian Dawkins, that would be, Shady, as in McCoy, and currently a pretty good receiver nicknamed the Slim Reaper. That's Devontae Smith. Again, none of those made it to my top 10. And how about these Sixers? Wilt the Stilt, or his other nickname, the Big Dipper. A teammate of his, no, not Wally Wonder, who I forgot, the Kangaroo Kid, Billy C., you mentioned him. And more recently, the Answer, and yes, the Process. There are a slew of Flyers with memorable nicknames. Oh, here's my entire honorable mention list. You can look at that. Among the Flyers, well, there's Big Bird Selesky. There's the Hound, Bob Kelly, who you mentioned, Moose DuPont, the LCB line, the Count, Bob Bailey, Kenny, the Rat Linsman, and of course, the coach from those mid-70s title teams, Freddie the Fog Shero. So many, Bill, so many, and we're not even at our top 10s as yet.
Yeah, and I tell you, I forgot Randall Cunningham. I forgot Weapon X. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I thought about the other ones, Bill Flett and Count Daly, and
Cowboy Flett,
they ended up not even making my total list.
I meant to write down Cowboy Bill Flett, and I forgot. So.
Yeah. All right, so here's my honorable mention group, and you mentioned many of them. I think I'm at 21. All right, so man. I had a special honorable mention list, and you mentioned them. Concrete Charlie would probably have been my number one.
Yeah, that's a good
actually.
One. Because he actually worked laying concrete when he wasn't playing football.
Right. The Big Dipper, Wilt the Stilt, whatever. He's in my special honorable mention group. And I had to reach out to Penn State one time because my good friend, Goon, I had to put him in my special honorable mention group, Keith Conlon. All right, so my honorable mentions are the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter, Nails, Lenny Dykstra. How about this one, Chet? You might have forgot this one. 1980 World Series, Kevin Hot Sauce Saucier.
Good one. I did
forget him. There you go. Mitch the Wild Thing Williams, Brad Lights Out Lidge, Flocky Hockey, Ron Flockhart of the Flyers.
Wow.
How about Larry Is He Good Enough?
Another good one.
Another great one. Minister of Defense Reggie White and Willie the Philly, Willie Montañez. They make up my honorable mention. I still got 10 more.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you do your top 10 in reverse order, and then I'll give you mine.
How about I give you my top 5 or my 6 through 10, and then I'll hear your 6 through 10.
Okay.
My number 10, the Secretary of Defense, Gary Maddox.
He's on my list.
Number 9, you might not know this one, Chet. I'm going to say you don't. One of my favorite players, too. I'll tell you a quick story on that. The Action Dog, Dave Cash.
That's right. Yeah, I do remember that nickname, but I would not have thought of it.
3 years in a row,
Loved
200 hits, 609 hits in 3 years, and they traded him. The Action Dog. Number 8, the Round Mound Rebound, Charles Barkley. Number 7, you mentioned him. I put him in here anyway. Freddie the Fog, Shero makes my number 7 spot. Number 6, and I really debated on this. I wanted to put him higher. I went with the Big Piece, Ryan Howard at 6.
That's not bad. The exciting whites, the Eagles' white cornerbacks right now. That's the current one. All right, so that's your 10 through 6. I'm going to give you my 10 through 6 right now. And actually, I have these two guys in a tie for 10th because they're so similar in terms of nicknames. The Minister of Defense, Reggie White, and the Secretary of Defense, Gary Maddox. So I have those guys tied for 10th. Number 9, you mentioned him as well in your 6 through 10 area. Number 9, the round mound of rebound, also known as Sir Charles. Number 8, the Hammer, Dave Schultz. It's just such an iconic name, and one of the focal points of the Broad Street Bullies. Number 7, I told you I love this nickname, Fred X, just because Freddie Mitchell was such an egomaniac and loved the hands, and he thought he delivered all the time. So Fred X. Number 6, I have Andrew Toney on my list, the Boston Strangler at number 6.
Yeah, that was good. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned Reggie White in that, along with Maddox. Reggie White was my first out. He was my 11, and Maddox was a 10. One of them had to go, and I wasn't sure which one it was going to be.
Or you just cheat like me and make them a tie for 10th.
Yeah, right. All right, my number 5 is, you want to go? I'll go 5 to 2. Okay. I'll hold my number 1. All right. Number 5 is Chocolate Thunder, Darryl Dawkins. Number 4, as you mentioned, the Hammer, Dave Schultz. Number 3, the Flying Hawaiian at number 3. Number 2, the Answer, Allen Iverson. Go ahead.
Okay, for me, 5 through 2. Number 5, the collective group of forwards known as the Legion of Doom. Those great Flyers.
Well, I didn't know we were doing groups.
Well, as you
I
said,
actually had to. Yeah, we're supposed to both know the rules, though. I actually had the Legion of Doom written down.
There you go.
But I didn't have LCB. You mentioned LCB. I didn't have that.
Number 4, not Jaws, but Jaws, the Polish Rifle. I love the fact that he was called the Polish Rifle.
I forgot about that. Yes,
I'm
good
Polish.
Good
Number
one.
3, Dr. J, just because such a great player, and we knew him right away as Dr. J. Just thought it was great. Number 2 for me, Chocolate Thunder. So you and I both have him in our top 5.
There you go. My number 1, and I'll tell you what, I took 1, 2, and 3, and I've shuffled them about 3 different times. Yeah. This is where they landed. My number 1 is Weapon X. Brian Dawkins ended up as my number 1. I had the Flying Hawaiian there. I had Iverson there. I had all 3 of them there. But when I pushed the print button, it was Weapon X.
All right. Well, I'm going to put up my top 10, and you'll see that my number 1, I went with just the Broad Street Bullies. Just so damn iconic.
That's about as soft as you can be.
Hey, I made the rules for my list, and that's where I went. Broad Street Bullies. Dave Schultz,
that's too easy.
Celeste,
that's like Dr. J. That's too easy.
Yeah. But man, so many great nicknames and so much fun. That was a good assignment there, Mr.
And actually, we worked really hard on that. I know I spent several hours this afternoon, but thinking about it all week. Put it down this morning, set them all down, and every time I went to try to cut somebody, I added somebody. And before I knew it, I was over 55. Yeah.
Vice versa.
So very good. Well, we'll do. So next week, let's talk about next week. We're going to do another assignment.
We are next week, Bill. Well, we're going to have a guest. We're going to have, let's see if I can find a picture of this guy. I can. We are going to have we're going to be back on Wednesday nights, by the way, our traditional Wednesday show schedule, 7 p.m. next Wednesday. And we have a first-timer joining us for the occasion, Bill. Show number 555, by the way. We will talk lots of baseball with our guest, Kevin Reevey. Kevin is a local baseball guy who's written a few books on the subject, including a brand new one that is coming out in the days or weeks ahead that he wrote with WIP's Jack Fritz. The book is called Ring the Bell. So we're excited to have Kevin joining us. But also, last week, 94 WIP talked pretty much all week about their top 11 current Philly pro athletes. Yeah, they always do 11 rather than 10 just to be different. And it's pretty tough narrowing it down to 11, especially with so many great players on the Eagles these days. By the way, they're one constant. Pretty much everybody voted this way. Saquon Barkley, the current number 1. Joel Embiid, who was number 2 last year, fell all the way to 10 or 11 this time around. Well, next week, Bill, you and I will go one better. We're going to give our top dozen, our top 12 active Philly pro athletes. They have to be active on an active roster of one of the 4 pro teams.
We're not an injured list like Bryce Harper is.
Well, no,
He's eligible.
right. He's eligible. He's going to be active
messing
very
with you.
soon. Yes.
I'm messing with you. All right, good deal. Looking forward to that. Another homework assignment.
Yes, indeed. Last thing, Bill, we want to say rest in peace to a couple of great rock and rollers. Mick Ralphs, the guitarist of Bad Company, and Bobby Sherman, we found out, died today. He had so many great, pop bubblegumish hits in the late 60s and early 70s. Yeah, they were corny, but they were also a lot of fun. And happy birthday to Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman turned 50 years old yesterday. So There he is. Happy birthday, Howie.
Yep. Hey, and I want to throw out on a personal note, I want to throw out happy 49th anniversary to my sister and my brother-in-law, Nick, who Thursday will be celebrating number 49.
Nice. And as you saw, I had a nice weekend in Pittsburgh. Went to that Monster Bash event, and I saw our friend Jane. Met up with Jane for a late breakfast, early lunch on Saturday at a great diner out there. So a fun weekend in the Steel City.
Yep, and you're going on a trip this weekend. I'm going to Chantilly, Virginia for a memorabilia show for the weekend. That'll be a lot of fun. And you'll
tomorrow.
Be in D.C., so we got it going on. We're going to have it all covered.
Yes, indeed. But we'll be back here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Wrap it up, Bill.
Let's wrap it up and thank tonight's special guest, Jim Jackson, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgate, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Wednesday, July 2nd at 7 p.m. You see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, as well as listening on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. We're going to leave it at that, Jet, because the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Flyers all need to be big this week.
Yes, sir.
Happy trails to you, till we meet again.